Welcome to Driven Ford. Ford have announced the release of the 7th generation 2024 Mustang. They've given us some more info now. There's a little bit more circulating that is reliable around these cars, and I'm going to do a direct comparison on this Mach-1 and what they're going to look like coming out in a couple of years' time. Let's get into the detail and see exactly what some of the changes are in terms of design, in terms of the interior, and in terms of the engine. And is there going to still be a manual? And more importantly, is it going to be this glorious Tremec that I have in the Mach-1? Are they going to stick that in the next gen, or are they staying where they are? As far as the exterior goes, I've taken some shots of mine. Let's see how they compare, what some of the specific changes are. And well, it's actually not what you might think. Despite all the crazy, maybe, who knows, speculation that's been going on over this new release for at least the last year, the new car is not that far off the outgoing 6th generation. You can see from the lines as we move between the two generations, it's not much of a radical redesign. More that the old beast has been given a makeover. There's parts I love and parts not so much. So what about the inside? Well, I thought it would be useful just to have a run through again, some comparison photos so that we can see what's going on in the inside and how it differs to the current existing Mach-1 that I'm in now. The really big news is the screen, or rather two screens that curve right across in front of you, incorporating the dash with the dials and the regular infotainment. The new car screens are even more customizable, whether your kind of thing is futuristic or whether you fancy the idea of a late 80s Fox body modelled on your dash. You can do it, bizarrely, but you can. The other big change from my point of view is apparently being laid at the door of the marketing boys again, who've seen fit to lose those lovely little toggle switches that we have. These little manual touches, tactile touches, are really nice in car design, and sadly with all this screenage everywhere, they've moved to being just simple press touch button type situations on the screen, rather than having those lovely physical toggles to change modes and steering modes and so on that we used to have. The steering wheel is the old flat bottom design favoured by so many. I think it looks really nice in the new car. This is something I've often wondered about doing in the Mach-1. I've just never really got round to it, but I've seen people online do upgrades. I'd like one of those in the Mach-1. The new car is going to be built by the lovely people down at Flat Rock, who also built this Mach-1 that I'm sitting in, and I'm delighted with it and can't wait to see how they turn out, these new cars. So the engines, well, my Mach-1 is the current king of the crop without getting into Shelby loveliness. And when it comes to power output, I know the Bullet owners are going to hit the comments and tell me, well, not really, because their car was the same power as the Mach-1. And that's fair enough. And you have beautiful cars. I love the Bullet. And, you know, if I didn't have this Mach-1, I would have had the Bullet. As well as the amazing 6-speed Tremec that's in this Mach-1, which alone, from my point of view, makes it the best of the Gen 6. As you probably know, they also stole a whole bunch of parts from the Shelby Playbox, and that makes these Mach-1s just superb cars. Anyway, how does the Gen 7 compare? The 2024 Mustang will offer two engine varieties. The 2.3 litre turbocharged EcoBoost, the 4-cylinder, or the 5 litre that we've come to know and love, the venerable Coyote. So I was very pleased to see that Ford kept the manual box, and importantly that they didn't start playing around and creating hybrids and messing around with electric powertrains. Let's leave that to the Mach-E. Ideally, let's call the Mach-E something else, but it is what it is now, I guess. And let's stick Mustangs where they belong, squarely and firmly in muscle car territory. For me, as I've said before, an electric Mustang is just a nonsense. It's hardly a muscle car. How can it be a muscle car and powered by electric and not make a noise like that? Ford says that each of the engines have been reworked, and this, of course, Coyote is going to be the 4th generation Coyote, and Ford say that it's going to offer the most power of any naturally aspirated GT. Now, That's a big claim, especially comparing to my Mach 1. Apparently this boost of power is coming from new dual air intakes and a new dual throttle body system. There's nothing obvious from the Shelby stable that appears on the Dark Horse as far as the designs that we've seen at this point, and they look to be production ready cars. We'll have to see. That may make the Mach 1 all the more special for having been able to beg and borrow from Shelby in the way that it has. Pricing and availability for the Dark Horse is still a bit of an unknown, but from the press shots it looks the business. From what I've read, Ford recently trademarked the Dark Horse name around the world, so it looks like we'll get it here, and it's being offered in all sorts of different territories. The outgoing Mustang GT has about 444 brake horsepower, so Ford is saying that this new generation is going past that. Now this might be from a Mach 1 owner perspective, but when Ford said specifically the most horsepower of any GT, well, I mean, I might be getting into the land of assumption here, but maybe they're ignoring the Mach 1. Maybe they're ignoring the Bullet, and they're referring to those as separate vehicles and suggesting that the new Gen 7 will have more power than the outgoing GT 5.0. If that's the case, the 480 that we have here may not be superseded by the Gen 7. If Ford place it in that 465 area, it's going to give Mach 1 and Bullet owners that still sense that they had a powerful car. It's going to be an increase on the existing GT, and it's going to give them some headroom to bring in the Dark Horse, which is being rumoured to have about 500 brake horse. If they go there and deliver on that, that's going to be great. It's going to make the Dark Horse something really special, and I can see the logic behind doing all of that. So driving the new cars, well, there's going to be really no point speculating about the driving experience until we can get behind the wheel of the Gen 7, but it's going to be pretty similar. It's built on the same platform. We've got chassis, the dynamics, the way the thing's set up, and most of it is going to be pretty similar. I noticed the driving modes are basically identical to the current driving modes in the Gen 6. They've renamed the snow and wet mode to slippery, but other than that piece of marketing genius, I don't really think there's going to be a lot between the two cars. I think it's probably safe to say it's not going to be a massive departure from the current GT. Well, for the teenagers out there, they've decided to give you the facility to rev the engine from the key fob, which, you know, I mean, I'm not a stranger to revving the engine gratuitously and for no particular reason, especially when there are Teslas around, just to demonstrate what it is that they are missing in their sad lives. But outside of the Tesla community, I'm sure there are probably others who would enjoy hearing the engine rev for no particular reason, and so Ford have chosen to give us that facility from a standing start with our key fobs. I think that's great fun. What needs to happen is there needs to be a flash mob. Someone needs to gather 50 Mustangs, Gen 7s, get outside a diner somewhere and wait, and then everyone all press their buttons at the same time, and the whole car park just light up with Mustang V8 Coyote gloriousness. Someone needs to make that happen, please. The second bit of new tech is an electronic drift brake, which doesn't appear to be actually a parking brake, but it electronically modulates the brakes on the rear wheels. You know, like when we all do drifting. Because that's what we all do. I guess at the end of the day, any excuse for a bit of stupid fun coming from an actual grown-up manufacturer is probably not a bad thing. I mean, after all, they did give us line lock. Ford's website here in the UK is giving us the option to sign up, find out more about the new car, when it's going to be released, what the specs are going to be. We're starting to get some information about colour lists and so on. But yeah, it's going to be a little while before we can actually put down deposits, I imagine. On their website, I just called it up. I'll tell you what they say. This is at least here in the UK, give you a sense of timing and so on. They say, the great American icon's next chapter begins in Europe late 2023. All new Ford Mustang will offer a revitalized interior, muscular V8 engine and a host of next generation connectivity features. Plus, refreshed design details on an unmistakably Mustang silhouette. You really have got to love the marketing people. So nice job, Ford. It's looking good. We've got a manual, we've got a V8, happy days. Thanks for watching Driven Flawed. If it was worthwhile, hit the like button and subscribe.